You're about to enter the world of strawberry ice and the ice cave. Let's go!
You know, the league rule was you're not really supposed
to take him out of that conversation. And that
he started from absolute scratch.
I would draft Aziz Ojulari or any.
Nobody's doing 7-step drops in
playing tackle for him. So
right.
It's
he's almost 22 years old. Devonta Smith, same thing.
You just can't. You can't do that. You can't do that.
I thought that 2010
that should be in the Hall of Fame, and they put him in after he was gone.
So that's to fill the stadium.
I remember you guys saying that.
It's crazy.
Fans.
I see that he's taken the non.
But overall, that line wasn't better.
No,
they still.
He's talking to the refs and saying, "Hey, I'm not going to get those calls."
He's coming. He's coming, and he's being section 158 with me. So
these guys have learned basically since they've been in the major leagues.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. This is Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm your host, the Iceman, Jeff Trenopole. And as always, I'm bringing you sports from a West Side point of view right here in the great city of Cincinnati, Ohio, home of the Cincinnati Reds, who are only 5 games out of first place, and they're only 2.5 out of the wild card. So it's not over yet, Reds fans. We'll see what happens tonight. They have the Battle of Ohio, the end of it tonight. They got to make up that rain delay. Or rain canceled game that's on tonight at 6:10. So just watch me and then go to the show. Now, if you found the show, do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button, smash that thumbs up. I'm up to 1,296 subscribers. That is awesome. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Now, as always, if you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, do me a favor, go to the YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that word for subscription, make it change colors, hit the bell for notifications. And then if you want us to support what I'm doing, we also have the super chats, which are exclusively in the YouTube channel. You give me a super chat, I'll pop it right up and we'll get it going. Now, this show and every show is brought to you by T Properties. T Properties, quality housing for quality people. Check out their website at www.tpropertiesllc.com for all your rental property management needs and your rental needs. All right, guys, we got one of my favorite guys to have on the show. Some people call him I think Crypt Keeper calls him the Bengal Brain. I think that's what he calls him. But you can check him out with his co-host, Anthony COSENZA, on the Orange and Black Insider podcast. He also writes for Cincy Jungle. He is none other than John SHEERAN. Hey, John, what's going on, man?
Nothing much, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. I always like having you on the show. Like I said, I think it's Crypt Keeper who calls you the Bengal Brain or calls you the Brain. I can't remember. Something like that.
I'm going to have to put that on my LinkedIn, actually.
Exactly. John the Brain SHEERAN. I could be like, if you were a wrestling fan back in the days, was Bobby the Brain Heenan. So you can be John the Brain SHEERAN. There you go. I don't know. I'm the Iceman. You're the Brain. There you go. Show's already going off the rails already, man. So, what's been going on with you? Have you been able to keep up with the Bengals at all? I mean, I know you're a very busy man.
Yeah, it's been interesting kind of following everything on social. Like, go back to 2019 when I was down at camp for basically every practice, the first year of Zach Taylor's tenure. Then last year, obviously with COVID, no one was allowed in camp. There was no preseason. All we had was basically like the training camp reports. Now this year's kind of like a hybrid. There's been a couple of open to the public practices, but obviously media has been allowed to be there and report on everything. I have not been down at camp and haven't seen anything with my own 2 eyes, but it's been interesting following everything with Burrow's recovery and the draft class and stuff. So it's been a lot of, I guess, ups and downs, maybe a little bit more of a roller coaster than we expected. Yeah.
I've been down to every practice. Well, I've been on the bridge, the Bengals bridge crew is what I call it. But not yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. I actually got to go to the Bengals practice, and I got to see them up close and personal. And I thought Burrow looked pretty good. And I didn't get to see any of the highlights of the practice on Saturday, but I heard he did really well. And hopefully a lot of people will calm down about Joe Burrow. And, I think everybody expects him to walk on water and be, perfect every single time. And it hasn't been the case. And John, how many times have we heard this throughout the years of training camp where the defense is ahead of the offense? I think that's in every NFL camp. So that's one of the reasons I haven't been worried about Burrow in the offense. But what's your thoughts on how the offense is done and how the defense is looking?
So the perception of Burrow has always been fascinating to me because people found out about him in 2019 when he could literally do no wrong and was playing at a perfect level at a school where no one ever expected a quarterback to play that well. So then he comes to Cincinnati and there's the expectation of him just picking up where he left off at LSU. And now we fast forward to now. And I think the biggest issue has been, for the first time since that injury 8.5 months ago, he's in pads and dealing with pressure and dealing with processing in the pocket. And even to a guy like Joe Burrow, who can probably turn water into wine, there's still an adjustment period, right? Like,
right.
Anybody who has that type of surgery, who's recovering from that type of injury, they'll tell you that there is a call it a minor or major fear of re-injuring or just past memories of what happened, and hopefully that it doesn't happen to the other leg. So even with a guy who is mentally as tough as Burrow is, there is always going to be something to the extent of that. And I think there was just a collective realization that, okay, this guy's human to this extent too. But also I think it's interesting because like the biggest thing was him just readjusting and reacclimating himself to handling pressure and dealing with, stuff going on in the pocket and making those decisions like he used to. Even last year when the offensive line was, trashed, like he wasn't the greatest against pressure in the first place. There were a lot of mistakes that he made, either holding the ball too long or taking some sacks or not making the best decisions, throwing the ball down the field. So he wasn't exactly perfect in these situations last year, despite how well he did in LSU. There was an adjustment period as a rookie, and now there's an adjustment period coming back from this injury. So that should have probably been expected, but considering the perception and the legend that Burrow already is, I guess it's not too surprising that people thought it would just click just like that right when he got back.
Right, and that brings you to the release of the depth chart today. Like Russ Int, I think that's how you say. He says, "I don't care what anybody says. I'm not liking the depth chart." And with that being said, Michael Jordan is listed as the number one starting right guard, and Jackson Carman is on the third string. Serafili is behind him. I mean, again, to me, it's early in camp. I don't think it means a hill of beans, to be honest. I think it means, they got to throw another month of practices and everything until we get to the first game. But what's your thoughts on Michael Jordan being the number one guard on right guard, I should say, for the Bengals as of right now?
So that's kind of what it should be because that's where he's been practicing of late. I think he's been taking the starting reps at right guard after Su'a-Filo was taking them when they kind of, I guess, benched Jackson Carman for too many mistakes. It started off with Su'a-Filo at that position, and everyone was freaking out that Carman wasn't taking those reps, and then Carman was being rotated in there, and he's been kind of up and down, and then I guess he had too many false starts or whatever, so they put Su'a-Filo back in there, and they had Michael Jordan in there for the last couple of practices. So the depth chart, at least the first one, should be a reflection of what is currently happening in practice, and at least in that sense, it is accurate, as well as Quinn Spain being the starter left guard. He has been playing recently because of a minor injury, but I think that is going to be cleared up this week, and he's going to be back out there. So that's right. He's starting at left guard. But I especially look back towards the Marvin Lewis days where the depth charts were always a joke. It was so clearly put together by someone who like barely knows what's going on, or they're just getting notes from the coaches. Like honestly, I woke up this morning and I saw a tweet from Hayden Winks, who is a writer for I believe I can't think of the website name, but he was talking about on
my show. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he was talking about like it's depth chart day, I guess, and it's like he made a joke about like some intern who's getting paid $5 a month putting these together for these teams, which is kind of honestly what I expect it to be. Like you look at the rest of the depth chart, you have Akeem Adeniji at backup left tackle. He's not going to play at all this year. Fred Johnson's listed as the backup right tackle. He hasn't practiced at training camp at all. You have Travion Williams and Jacques Patrick ahead of Chris Evans at running back. Like this thing is not 100% accurate, but people look at Michael Jordan at right guard and they are immediately scared because there's a stigma attached to him, and they haven't really been hearing about what he's done in training camp. They don't really know, I guess, the current version of Michael Jordan yet. So, I mean, it's the first depth chart. It doesn't mean that much until the team itself starts playing, but I can understand the reaction because they only know of one Michael Jordan, and it's the Michael Jordan that got Joe Burrow hurt.
Right, exactly. Now that brings you to the other. You haven't been at camp. I actually have been at camp, and I haven't been able to pay attention to Michael Jordan, to be honest, because where I'm out above the bridge. But Natural wants to know, has Michael Jordan shown any significant growth during camp? I mean, I would say yes, because he is being put at the starting guard position. You would think he's made some growth, which, I mean, he worked with Willie Anderson a little bit in the offseason this year too. So I don't know how long. I remember I was on Ace and Zim's show, the Civil War, and Willie said he's only there for a week, but he was planning on coming back. I don't know if he ever made it back out there to work with Willie or not. But Willie is a Michael Jordan fan. I mean, he's trying to help him out. So I mean, I can't answer that, to be honest, if he's made significant growth at all during camp. I don't know. Have you heard anything about Michael Jordan and his play there, John?
Not necessarily. I think we've only seen some sparing highlights or just clips in general of offensive line play, and I think for the most part, people have said it's not looked tremendously good. But that's probably attributed to what we talked about earlier. The defense is usually ahead of the offense, and that involves the defensive line just getting it after it. And it was only just a couple practices ago that the offense itself could make checks and audibles at the line, and be in a more game actual simulation type situation. So, whenever you have an offensive line that's shuffling out players constantly from first and second string because nothing's really finalized, there's always going to be some communication errors, and that leads to, unfortunately, some bad reps, especially when you don't really know who the starters are going to be at either guard spot. But I think we heard a lot about Jordan's progress, or at least just challenge to overcome the adversity that was put upon him last year. And I think for the most part, he's reportedly handled it pretty well. He just kind of made over his body. I can't really get the words out with that, but I think he dropped down a bunch of weight and he added on some muscle there, which he definitely needed, considering what he wasn't good at as a pass protector. But we don't really know that much about Michael Jordan until we're going to see him on Saturday against Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh. Like, if anything, like this is honestly a decent scenario to be in if you're a Bengals fan, because you're having Michael Jordan being thrown out there against the Wolves in the first string against the defending Super Bowl champs. And if he handles it, great. Apparently he has made some progress. If he hasn't, there's no way Frank Pollock's going to leave him in there as the starter in week 2 if he plays like the Michael Jordan of old. So right away, you're going to find out how much progress Michael Jordan has actually made, and you're not going to have to wait around till week 1 to find out.
Exactly. Another interesting thing, and I really like this kid when they draft him out of East Carolina, is Deontay Smith. I think he could be maybe not next year, maybe the year after that, but could potentially be the right tackle replacement for Riley Reef. I like his footwork and stuff that I've seen. Not that I'm anywhere of an expert. I'm just a fan, but the kid moves really quickly and really well for a big guy. But he is actually the backup at left guard, which I thought was kind of surprising. I think he only played one game in college at guard. So, and like, again, it's the first step. It's not, none of it really means anything. It's just more of conversation. But I think that goes to how Deontay Smith, the progress he's made, because with Akeem Adeniji, with his injury, we needed somebody to step up, or hopefully if the Bengals can go pick up somebody, which is, I'm still hoping they'll do for some more depth. But what's your thoughts on Deontay Smith?
So he was at guard, I believe, for some reps in the Senior Bowl, which is, I think, when the Bengals first really took a notice of him. So he was at tackle, and I think both guard spots to the Senior Bowl, and I think it had one of the highest win rates for a pass blocker during the Senior Bowl drills, according to PFF's data. So he obviously showed out there, and that's when he really got their attention. And then I think they interviewed him, and they really liked what he had to say and stuff, and that obviously led to them drafting him in the 4th round. But the guy only played one game in his last year at ECU, and that was when he was 270 pounds. Now he's the 320-pound guy who, again, he needs as many reps as possible. Aside from Jamar Chase, there's no rookie in this class that just needs experience getting back into football, considering the last time that they really played over a long extended period of time. But the first time we heard about Deontay Smith in this camp, he was out there right tackle when Riley Reef wasn't playing, and Sam Hubbard was just beating him like a drum.
Yes, he was.
So obviously, they didn't see what they needed to see at right tackle. So they still have a carousel going on at left guard. Let's see what the guy can do there. We saw him succeed at that point, at that position in the Senior Bowl back in January. Might as well see what he has there. And apparently there's been some progress there. If he's the second string left guard right now behind Quinn Spain, so he's going to get a ton of looks on Saturday against Tampa Bay, and we'll just kind of see what he is, because right now we don't really know what he is. He has the body type for a traditional tackle, which I think is why they valued him where they valued him. But if he has this positional versatility, it's obviously good news for him, not only confirming his roster spot, but confirming his being active on game days, because if you can play multiple positions, there's no reason why you should be on the bench.
Exactly.
Or in street clothes.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I will say, Sam Hubbard has played like a man possessed in training camp. Again, it's training camp, and I'm not trying to overstate, because I was out here, saying, just everybody calm down about Joe Burrow. He's going to be fine. I'm not trying to overstate how good Sam Hubbard has looked, but Sam Hubbard has looked really well and really good in practice. And again, we're talking about practice, but I think this might be a motivational year for Hubbard with him getting the contract, and some people saying that he didn't deserve that much money, which I actually think it was a really good signing money-wise for the Bengals and for Hubbard, because I think if he left as a free agent, you're looking at he's probably getting $17 to $18 million. They got him for 10 a year, so I don't think that was a bad signing for him. But I think we have a shot, if he can stay healthy, of having a breakout year this year. What's your thoughts on Hubbard going to the season?
I really don't know like how much better Sam Hubbard can be, because he's already a pretty good player in itself. Like I think Joe Goodberry has said this multiple times. Like Michael Johnson was always a reasonable career trajectory path for him. Not a dominant pass rusher by any means, but a guy who can get some cleanup and effort sacks and just be a quality run defender. In terms of being a quality run defender, there's only a handful of other defensive ends who are more productive in that sense. So getting a guy like that for $10 million a year, and when you're talking 2 years down the road, the salary cap's going to go to $1 billion. Like the value is going to be there over the long run, and keeping him, in stripes for until like he's like 28, 29 years old. But I think as long as the rest of the defensive line is healthy, I think it obviously bodes well for him. He doesn't have to take on as much of a pass rushing responsibility as last year when they had just corpses out there at defensive tackle. But that's honestly like my biggest question with this group. Like I think the depth and the overall talent level is amongst the highest on the team, which may be more of an indictment on the rest of the team. But there's not really one guy that they have. There's not really one proven guy out there that they can say, hey, it's second and long, it's third down, go win this assignment, go win this one-on-one and get a pressure, get a sack. Like they had that for years with Geno Atkins. They had that last year with Carl Lawson. They don't really have that known commodity on the team right now. They hope it's Trey Hendrickson and they hope it's Sam Hubbard. So if there is a year for Sam Hubbard to have that breakout year as a pass rusher, it's this year, because I kind of do agree with you. If he had waited until next free agency, and if he had a full 17-game season, he gets like, I don't know, 6-7 sacks and retains his status as a dominant run defender, I think he could have made a lot more than what he made this year.
Yeah, I that's what I said. I'm like, because people are like, oh, that's too much money. He doesn't get that many sacks. I'm like, I said, but he's a very, very good run defend player. And like I said, if he leaves, somebody else is going to pay him more money. I guarantee that. But
he was also he was out for half last year.
Yes.
And he was terrible as a pass rusher for like the first 8 weeks. And he put together some good games. And he was still he wasn't fully healthy, I think, until like week 9 or 10 or something like that.
Right,
so unfortunately, he lost a lot of money for what he did last year.
Right. Well, one thing, I'll get back to what you're saying about the talent, I guess, on the defensive side of the ball. And the part that I'm excited about is the depth. I would love to still have Carl Lawson, but the depth that we have as guys who we can do on the rotation for the pass rush, which is the H boys, Hubbard and Hendrickson. And then I'm really excited to see Joseph Osai and Drew Sample. I think those, and that's a big get. I've said this on the show a couple times. It's a big get to ask rookies to come in and make huge contributions, but it can't happen. But I think they're in a good spot because they're not starters. They could be rotational guys and come in. They can move, both can play inside and outside, so you can move them around a lot. So I think this is the most depth that Lou has had, and actual talent wise, to have guys who can actually drop back into coverage instead of trying to get Carlos Dunlap to do it, who was awful at it. So I think Lou has the best talent and the most depth he's had probably the 3 years he's been here on as a defense coordinator. So I think he's got the best chance to get done what he's trying to get done on defense. What's your thoughts on the defense and Joseph Osai and Sample and all that stuff?
In terms of Osai, obviously if Jamar Chase plays well, that's impactful. If Jackson Carman manages to get to the starting lineup, that's impactful. Joseph Osai, I think, has gone under the radar in terms of what type of impact that he can have, because like we talked about, they don't have a known dominant pass rusher in their rotation right now. But if you're looking at Osai as potentially having the same role as 2017 Carl Lawson did when he played 400, 500 snaps, the vast majority of that's on passing downs. If you can provide that spark as an edge rusher and not necessarily rack up 10 sacks like Lawson did as a rookie, but just get in the backfield and just get some one-on-one wins against tackles around the edge. Like, he has the athleticism to do that. It's all a matter of getting him out on the field and doing it as much as possible, because he's only done it for one full year at Texas. He's still 21 years old, but I think we're already hearing about he's just causing havoc against the second team offensive line.
Yes.
But if he's doing it against Jonah Williams and Riley Reef in practice, getting some more experience against the ones, I think that would be fantastic for the defense. Like, we don't really know what this third down pass rushing unit is going to look like. I think we can assume that Hendrickson and Hubbard can be moved inside a little bit. They can use Cam Sample inside as well, because he has the body type for that. But that's going to be where you're going to see a lot of Osai at probably either side of the formation. But getting him involved and getting a productive rookie season out of him, that would do wonders for the defense, because, again, pass rush was just non-existent last year, and that's exactly why they drafted him. And they don't know that Hendrickson is going to – they don't know for sure if Hendrickson is going to be that same guy that he was in New Orleans, and they haven't really seen that to that extent from Hubbard yet. So Osai, just his addition in there can make such a tremendous impact, because they don't have another athlete like him on the defensive line. Yeah,
exactly, because there are a lot of the rep against Hendrickson is that he cleaned up a lot of the sacks. He didn't create them, but he still got them, and he got the quarterback down. So that's why some people are kind of saying that it might be a downgrade from Lawson to Hendrickson because of that. Now, but my thing is Lawson a lot last year, like I said, and you gotta give Lawson a break, because he was really he was the only pass rusher we had. He would get to the quarterback and couldn't get him down. So hopefully, if we have enough guys going in there, getting to the quarterback, somebody will get him down. That would that hopefully has to happen. That's what I'm kind of hoping with the rotation, because I don't think we really had a rotation like this. And I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying as far as the potential. And since like 2015, we had you had Michael Johnson, you had Gino, and you had Carlos Dunlap, and there's some other guy I can't remember who else.
Gilberry?
Yes, Gilberry. Yeah, we had other guys, multiple guys coming in that you could bring in fresh guys. Is what I'm getting at. Fresh guys come in and keep going after the quarterback. And I think we actually had that this year with the depth, with the two rookies and the H boys.
Right. And I mean, Larry Ogunjobi, unfortunately, is still nursing a hamstring injury, but just compared to last year, when you had, like, at this point, only two healthy defensive tackles, you had to bring in Mike Daniels almost out of retirement to get him from Detroit. So, like, compared to where they were last year, and I guess the last 2 years, it's much better. Obviously, if things have worked out between Gino and Carlos, and they're still playing at a decent level, that would make a difference. But considering what happened with them and what it could have been, like, they made the effort to invest in this position group, and they put their money where their mouth is. They spent another third-round pick. They spent 2 fourth-round picks on it this year. Like, they have the bodies there, and fortunately, right now they're healthy, and that health is going to matter, in November, December, if they actually have depth.
Exactly. Now I got a question here from Orange Arrow. He said, I haven't heard anything like this, but did Carman, have issues with laziness in Clemson? Heard that today, but not sure the truth of it. I haven't heard that. Have you heard anything about laziness or anything from him at Clemson?
The only thing that comes to mind, so he played at Fairfield High School in Cincinnati, and I believe he was already a big kid in Fairfield. He was like well over 300 something pounds. He got to Clemson, I believe, at like 370 pounds, and he was a starter pretty soon. I don't know off the top of my head if he was a true freshman starter, but he did play multiple years protecting Trevor Lawrence's blind side, and he entered the draft at like 20, 21 years old. So he was playing in there, well over 300 pounds as an 18, 19-year-old kid. And he worked a lot to get his weight down to like 330, I think it was his playing weight in his last year at Clemson. Then he was like 317 for the offseason. So the only thing I heard was that his weight fluctuated a lot, and he did put in the work to bring it down. But I don't know if you've ever heard this, but like some like anonymous scouts and douchebags, they knock prospects for being great in the kitchen, like having a passion for cooking, because oh, that's not going to go well. Like, they're going to put on unnecessary weight. They're not going to keep weight. For as much as I've heard, like, Carman, like Deontay Smith, has done a lot to kind of reshape his body and get into the proper playing weight for what he has to do. So I haven't heard anything in terms of maturity issues, but anytime that you have a guy who was a multi-year starter and he's just 21 years old, like, he had to grow up, to really earn that role and keep that role. So I think that honestly bodes well for where his maturity is. But still, he's 21 years old. We all remember, what we were at 21 years old. For all we know, he's a good kid. And it's just, there's always an adjustment period for going from even a program like Clemson to the NFL. Like, there's a level that you just have to be committed every single day. And, I understand why Frank Pollock and Taylor and his staff would probably rely more on a veteran like a Xavier Su'a-Filo or Michael Jordan just to get, these reps done in the right way and let Carman kind of ease into it and kind of learn from them. So I haven't heard anything specifically about maturity issues, but I can understand, where that may come from considering his background and his age.
Right, exactly. And the thing is, if to kind of go on top of what you just said, if he had these maturity issues or whatever, and he didn't work hard, I don't think he would have started for at least 3 out of the 4 years he was there. Did he start all 4 years or just 3? I know
he was only a 3-year player, so he started most 3.
So yeah, I don't think so people are going to say stuff because everybody expects, well, especially the people who wanted to draft Sewell are going to say, hey, we should have drafted Sewell, see where we're at. But the thing is, you got to look at too is he's learning a new position. He's going from tackle to guard. He's never played guard. He's never played a snap in the NFL. So he's learning a new position. So it's going to take him a little while. And Frank Pollock, I think, is more old school, where I just have a feeling that he's going to make him earn it. And this is something I keep bringing this up almost every time we talk about this, but I think this is a really good point that Paul Dehner Jr. brought up on my show a week or so ago. And he said he wouldn't be surprised if Su'a-Filo starts, even though they have Michael Jordan start right now, but the Su'a-Filo started in the first game against Minnesota because we all know Zim. He's the Minnesota head coach, used to be our defense coordinator. He's going to go find that rookie and go, that guy, go get him. So maybe the first game playing in the NFL and your first game playing guard, maybe going against a Mike Zimmer defense might not be the best thing to do, but I don't know. I mean, I think Frank Pollock's going to make the best decision for him. And just put it this way, I like it. They're making him earn it. They're just not handing it to him,
Right. And we only have like 1 year of data or I guess history to look back with Pollock here. And he had Billy Price, starting at center as a rookie, and he dealt with injuries, unfortunately. But at a certain point, they put in Trey Hopkins at center like the midway through the season. And then Pollock didn't go back to Price, at center. Even when Hopkins was playing well, they kept Hopkins in there. And that ended up being the right move because now Hopkins is a solid center. Like he was the start of that a career change, I guess, for Hopkins. And now it's unfortunately put Price where he is now. So if he has Michael Jordan out there on Saturday and Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh put him on skates and he looks like the Michael Jordan of the last 2 years, it's hard to see Jordan retaining that spot going forward, unless unfortunately Su'a-Filo and Carman are equally as bad or worse, which would be the worst case scenario and would warrant the cries for help and the outrage that we're currently seeing on Bengals Twitter right now. But we don't know if that's the case because again, we just haven't seen anything. Like there's only been a handful of padded practices. There hasn't been a game yet. There's a long way to go with this. I even referenced the first depth chart of the 2019 offseason in August of that year. It had John Jerry at left guard and Billy Price at center, and Michael Jordan and Trey Hopkins ended up winning those battles because those were the handful of positions that were up for grabs up until the end of the training camp and preseason, and that's exactly what the guard spots here. But everything that we've heard is that neither of these spots are finalized until week 1, and it's probably going to be that way. Obviously, they would want to get it done sooner than later, but odds are it's going to take that amount of time to really figure out where they want to go with this. And I guess right guard has more of a competition because they probably like Spain more than their options at right guard. But Jordan's going to get the first chance, but that doesn't mean that he's going to get the final chance too.
Yeah, and I like the point that you keep bringing up is they have to find out what they have in Michael Jordan, and if he's worth moving forward as starter or backup or whatever. And because one thing I think I can't remember, it was an article on Cincy Jungle. I cannot remember who wrote it. It was about the depth chart. And one thing that I think they might be trying to figure out too is if they're going to keep Su'a-Filo because he's owed $1.3 million, I think, or something. He's owed more money. That's a lot of money for the Bengals to pay for a backup guard. So Michael Jordan's cheaper. So, that might be an option too. They want to pay Su'a-Filo that much money to be a backup. But getting back to your point, that I think it's a great opportunity and for the Bengals to find out if Michael Jordan has gotten any better, put all the work in and done all this stuff and going against the Super Bowl champ, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it's going to be a challenge for him. So it is definitely going to be we'll find out where he's at, I think, pretty quickly in this game.
I would agree. Yeah.
So let's get to you guys had me, or actually, excuse me, Anthony had me on his show, the Water Cooler Chat, a couple weeks ago. You guys were getting ready to do your oh my goodness, I can't even think of the word now. For charity show. Jeez, all of a sudden I had a brain cramp. But you guys did a charity show last week, I think it was, and it was for the Ken Anderson Alliance, Ken Riley, and Anthony Munoz as well. So how is that going? How much money have you guys raised? And if people are still wanting to donate, tell them where they can do that, because I think it's still open.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. So a couple weeks ago, we started the OBI Bengals podcast Charity Fest. It was a live show that we did 2 weeks ago. We had both Ken Anderson and Ken Riley on to talk about, or Ken Riley II, to talk about the Ring of Honor, which includes Ken Anderson and Riley's father, talk about that, and also talk about their respective foundations, the Ken Anderson Alliance based here in Cincinnati and the Ken Riley Foundation based in Central Florida for the respective things they do. And then last week we had Anthony Munoz on to talk about obviously his induction in the Ring of Honor and the Anthony Munoz Foundation, which is also based in the greater Cincinnati area. And we started a GoFundMe to basically honor these three players and their respective foundations under their namesake. So we have a GoFundMe set up right now. It has raised at this point just under $1,200, so $1,199, including from the guy next to me, Jeff. He was one of the first donations, so I thank him for being a part of it and also bringing it up and raising awareness. We're going to leave it open, I think, for the remainder of this week. We had an original goal of $2,021 to honor the first season that this team wins the Super Bowl, but even if we don't make that, we're going to donate 100% of these proceeds to all three of these charities, equal donations. And I'm just really appreciative of how much that's been shared, how much that's been contributed to, and just really happy that this was as much of a success as it was. And we hope to continue doing this for the future Ring of Honor inductions. We're going to try to honor, other former players' foundations if they get inducted in the Ring of Honor. Can't kind of keep this going to just raise awareness for these foundations and these charities.
Yeah, it was a really cool show because you had Ken Anderson on there and you had Ken Riley II on there. I've had Ken Riley II on here a couple of times. Never had Ken Anderson. I'd like to get him on here sometime. But to listen to those guys talk about the charities and what it means to them and what they benefit, they're all good causes. I mean, and that's what's cool about these players that we are honoring with our Ring of Honor. They, including Anthony Munoz, so all three of them, Paul Brown, obviously, but the three players, all three of them have had roots here. I know Ken Riley actually lived down in Florida, but he still kept his roots in Cincinnati and was involved in this community and helping it. Same thing with Ken. Ken Anderson just had he opened a coffee shop up, I think, in Silverton. I think that's where it is. So, and that's for helping people. I don't want to talk wrong because I don't remember off the top of my head. What do you know what it's for?
Yeah, it's so the Ken Anderson Alliance basically helps adults with disabilities, get into the workforce and kind of adapt them in society. And Just Brew, the coffee shop, kind of gives them, I think it employs 14 adults with disabilities. So it's obviously for a great cause. And that's really what the Ken Anderson Alliance is all about. Yeah,
that's what's cool about it. That's what I like, that we honor these guys because they're not just great football players. They're great human beings. They're good guys. So that's always good. So if you guys ever want to help out, go to their GoFundMe page, and you can donate to all three charities. You got Ken Anderson, Ken Riley's, and Anthony Munoz. So that brings you to the Ring of Honor and the Hall of Fame. I had the Hall of Fame last night. And, of course, they had a couple freaking squealers go in, yada, 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 whatever. And Drew Pearson finally got to go in. So, okay, he's done crying now. He finally got in. Hopefully, we're going to hear Ken Riley's name here very soon. And hopefully for this coming season, and hopefully maybe get to Willie Anderson, get him in there as well. How cool would it be to get both Ken Riley? Because I think there's a better shot at Ken Riley right now instead of Ken Anderson, because unfortunately he passed away. I think that has a lot to do with it. And get Willie Anderson. Do you think there's a shot we get two Bengals in? And, so we only had one in, we get two in at the same time now. Get Willie in and get Ken Riley in.
Man, I would be utterly floored if they get two in the same class. I think that's reserved for a handful of organizations. I think you just mentioned one in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I think I think Riley should get in sooner than later. Like I still think Anderson has the best chance overall of getting in, but I think at this point, like just with everything that's happened with Riley, I think he has the best chance of getting in. I, I would say he gets in first, but I still think Anderson has a great chance as well. And honestly, I would love to hear his son's induction speech, because you had him on the show. We talked with him. He's just a great guy, and he speaks. He remembers a lot about his father's career, at least in like the late 70s when he was alive for it, and he's just a great guy to pass down that legacy to.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I talked to Ken a second about. I said, "You got your speech ready? You got an idea?" He goes, "I got some ideas." He's not trying to get too excited because they've had they thought he was going to get in last year, and that didn't happen. So we got a question here in the chat from Daryl here. He said, "This is kind of interesting. If Mixon doesn't get it done this year, it's time to look for another featured back." Go ahead. I'll let you answer that one. I liked your facial reaction there, John. Go ahead. What do you think about Mixon?
I guess this was a question to ask before they signed him to all that money. Like that contract exists, and even though doesn't feature any guaranteed salary outside of the signing bonus, this is the Bengals, and they're going to pay it for at least 3 of the 4 years that it exists. So if he doesn't do well this year, he's the starter for 2022, because that's the contract that they gave him, because they deemed him necessary for the long run, despite all the data that says against that. And obviously with the offensive line being the catalyst for running back success, but that was their decision, and that's the bed that they got to live with.
And I mean, I think he's going to have a breakout year, to be honest. And one thing I thought is interesting is I've seen multiple times down there at camp that they have him split out at wide receiver. And I don't know if I've ever seen him do that. I've seen Mixon do it, and I've seen, or not Mixon, I've seen Gio do it, but I've seen Mixon take passes out of the backfield. But I don't know if I've ever seen him split out at wide receiver. Is this something new, or has he done this before? Or am I just not remembering it?
He has done it before. I just don't think he was really targeted that much in it. I know last year they implemented some of those looks, because that's kind of what LSU did a lot under Burrow. They would have Clyde Edwards-Helaire lined out wide when they were just an 11 personnel, but they were empty. So they had 5 options at receivers. So if they do it more this year, I would imagine that he might get more involved in the passing game. It's going to be interesting, though, with how they handle him on third down with no more Giovanni Bernard. Does Samaje Perine take those opportunities in pass protection? He's not going to get a lot of chances as a receiver. I think all that's going to go to Mixon. How much responsibility does Mixon have as a pass protecting back on those passing downs? I think that's going to be the one thing to really watch for. I don't know if they're going to increase his overall targets in terms of when he's lined up as a receiver. I think he's going to get more targets out of the backfield as a back, though.
All right. Now, where does Chris Evans line up in all this? You think you see him as, I keep calling him Gio 2.0. I don't know if he's not gonna come in and take be the backup. He's gonna be probably the third string. But where do you see him fitting in this team as a rookie this year?
It really is kind of lazy on my part. Just seeing the number 25, it's almost kind of skewed my vision, because I watched some of the clips. I'm like, yeah, this guy kind of does move like the old number 25. Mm-hmm. We didn't really get to see him in Michigan that much, because he barely even played in this last year because of the whole thing about what happened to him and him getting expelled and going back on the team. So I guess he just fell out of favor with the Michigan staff. But I mean, the guy's obviously talented. He entered Michigan, I think the first time he took reps in practice, he was at receiver. And I think that's where he made a lot of his bank in high school. And then he basically kind of transitioned to a running back. But I think that natural pass catching ability gives them roster flexibility, and obviously make him valuable to be active on game days. I'm not sure how much work on special teams he needs, but I think in terms of adding back that dimension that they lost in Bernard along with Mixon, I think there's obvious value in that. But he does look like a natural receiver, and if Mixon doesn't get some of those snaps lined up at receiver, I would like to see Evans kind of do that a handful of times a game.
Now that brings you to Puka Williams, and I think he has been basically moved to the wide receiver position more than running back. As if they're going to keep him, he could be our punt returner and maybe our 5th or 6th wide receiver. I know a lot of people are excited about him, but I don't know. I don't personally know if he's going to make the team or not, because I know Trent Taylor. I think he's going to be the punt returner this year, unless he gets injured, obviously. Then because I've even seen Tyler Boyd out there taking punts. I'm sure that's just for emergencies or whatever. But where do you think Puka fills out in all this?
Yeah, I remember. I think Boyd takes reps at punt returner every offseason, but he never does in the regular season, just because I think he did it in Pitt, and I think that's what Giovanni Bernard did too, and they never used him there, which kind of makes me think maybe they should give some of these skill position players more opportunities there, just to give them a little spark. But I guess that's when we saw Brandon Tate back there just doing 5 yards every return. We just wanted something more of a flair of it. But I think with Puka, I've talked about this ever since they signed him. He was really fun to watch at Big 12 Kansas because it's the Big 12 and it's Kansas. But it's hard to see that type of player at that size succeed as much as he did at running back. It's hard for a guy who's 5'9", 170 to take on a lot of touches out of the backfield like that. And that's why they're kind of transitioning him to more of a slot player, like a gadget player. And I think I think he has value to it, right? He's not taking on that many blows per game. And I think that's where his athleticism can best be utilized. But if it is more of a steeper learning curve, which may be the case right now because he just doesn't have as much experience, he just may not be completely ready to take on that role this year. But yeah, I have heard some of the beat guys say it is a competition between him and Trent Taylor to make the roster because the most of their value is going to be at punt return and on special teams. And I just don't think that's really a competition at this point. I think Trent Taylor's probably got that locked down because he does have that experience, and Puka has the potential. And I think Darren Simmons has spoke to that, but the potential has to be productive when you have another guy who's just better at this point. So I still think Puka can make the team, even if he isn't the primary punt returner, because you still probably are going to have 6 receivers and 4 running backs. And I think Puka can be either that 6th receiver or that 4th running back. I definitely think he can be that 4th running back because the rest of the guys, they're decent, but they're not anyone that you need to have on the roster. You don't need a Jacques Patrick. You don't need a Travion Williams if Puka can give you something that those guys can't. So I don't know if it's necessarily a true, either this guy makes it or this guy makes it, but I will say that Trent Taylor's probably got the leg up on him on punt return, and it's going to take a great preseason for Puka to make the team in general.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been hearing too. Steve Jeanette here says, I saw an article that says Tate and Darius Phillips could be odd men out and possibly trade given who else is on the roster. I don't know about that. I don't know if I've heard that. I think Tate's going to be our 5th wide receiver, or excuse me, our 4th wide receiver, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess if Tate feels like he deserves a better opportunity, for example, James Washington of Pittsburgh, he's wide receiver 4 for them right now, but he was a 2nd round pick. He was really good in college, and he's been somewhat productive in the opportunities that he has. He's entering a contract year. He feels like he deserves a shot to be more productive and have a bigger role. With Tate, I think somewhat of a similar case can be made because he has been, slightly productive in his opportunities. But from the Bengals perspective, how much are you really getting for Auden Tate at this point? Are you getting more than the 6th, 7th round pick? He was a 7th round pick anyways. They're not the team that's just going to take a net even in terms of trading away a player still on the rookie contract, unless they're getting a top 100 pick for a career wide receiver 4. I just don't think there's any value in the Bengals kind of trading him away. And I don't really think there's really that much of a market for Auden Tate. The reality is every team has at least 3 or 4 quality receivers aside from maybe a handful, like the Lions and Saints come to mind. The league is loaded with receiver talent that a guy like Auden Tate, for as talented as he may be in that role, he just doesn't have that much of value, I guess, compared to what maybe Bengals fans kind of think.
Yeah, exactly. And do you think some of the comments are in here, and there's 3 or 4 about the same thing, we're saying, how last year Tate's agent was, getting upset, trying to get him traded, more playing time, yada, yada, yada. Do you think any of that is lingering from last year?
I wonder how much of that has to do with John Ross, because he was still getting, starting reps, and he obviously did nothing with them. And I think Tate might have been frustrated. Why is this dude, even though he was a 1st round pick, why is he getting more reps than me? I'm obviously more productive. I'm doing something with my opportunity. And at that point I do understand. And I think after that, Tate saw more opportunities, and Ross was basically regulated to the bench and given these fake injury statuses. So yeah. I think there might be more of an understanding between Tate and the coaching staff now, but also you have another 1st round pick at receiver, so Tate's opportunities aren't necessarily increasing. But I do think that he has an understanding of his role in the offense. But if he does still feel that way, if he doesn't want to play for the Bengals, which we haven't heard anything recently with that, then the Bengals should, try to honor that and try to get something from him. But I don't think it's as toxic of a relationship as it supposedly was last year.
Exactly. I'll get to Alex. I was reading Alex's comment here. He said, I assume since we haven't heard anything bad about Hopkins in camp so far, we can assume he's all good coming off that ACL, and we are solid at center, right? Yes, he's, as far as I know, he's supposed to start game 1. Have you heard anything differently there, John?
No, I think at the beginning of camp, he was been given a lot of he wasn't put in for 11-on-11 work at the beginning, but I think late last week he was starting to take those reps, and we haven't really heard anything bad about it. There's obviously been no medical setbacks, so
right.
Everything that we've heard, he's starting to get those reps more. I don't know if he's going to play in the preseason. I think him and Reeder were along with the Burrow type of wait and see type situations, but I think he's going to be okay for week 1.
Yeah, Zach actually pointed out those 3 guys.
Yeah,
as I'm trying to get them to game 1, not preseason game 1. So that's he specifically named Hopkins, DJ, and Joe on that. So now everybody's kind of freaking out, I guess. And we talked about a lot at the beginning of the show. The Jackson Carman, how he's been playing, and before that, they were freaking out about Joe Burrow. Seems like Bengals fans, we got to freak out about something. But I think it's funny how last week it was all Joe Burrow's not playing good. Did the Bengals ruin Joe Burrow? Yada yada yada. Now it's did the Bengals screw up in drafting Jackson Carman? He's third string. He's all this stuff. I just wonder, is this more of how do we bridge the gap for people going, it's preseason, it's training camp, it's I'm not gonna say it's gonna be fine because I have no idea what's gonna happen with Jackson Carman, but it's for him to be the third string guy right now. It's not a bad thing. And what's going on with Joe, it's going to get better. So I'm just trying to figure out how we get people to stop getting on the edge and, keep them from jumping off, with all this silly stuff, I think.
It's all optics relative to expectations. I've already seen this on Twitter, so yeah. I don't feel responsible for speaking into existence because I've already seen it. But unfortunately, Jamar Chase is going to be linked to the offensive line for a very unfair reason because it was an opportunity cost situation. They took Chase instead of what a lot of people assume was a sure thing, an offensive line in Penei Sewell. So then when you take Chase, then you have an obligation to address offensive line later. Jackson Carman was their primary situation with that. And now that primary situation isn't going to see snaps in the preseason until the third or fourth quarter because he's on the third string. There's optics with that. And then fans, they take that and run with it. Oh my God, this guy's not going to be ready for week 1. Why do we waste a draft pick on him? Even though the learning curve for offensive line is greater than any other position on the NFL field, even if there are plenty of first round picks in recent memory that just aren't good rookies. The less inexperience you have on the offensive line, the better. Teams don't want to run out as many rookies as possible, which is why really the crux of the issue was not addressing it before the draft, but that's obviously months behind us now.
Right.
Carman at the end of the day is a 21-year-old rookie who's learning a new position, even though that position for the long term may be better for the type of player and the type of body type that he has. But still, he is a rookie, and there is a learning curve. There's an adjustment period. It is hard for rookie offensive linemen to come in and be starting quality caliber players. And if this is just the way that they have to do it, then it's the way they have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And the only part that I'm not worried about the starters. I think Frank Pollock is going to get the starters, the best 5 guys out there, week 1. I'm more worried about the depth, because we've talked about how Deontay Smith is the first or second backup at guard right now. That's my concern is if somebody gets hurt, which we had a lot of injuries last year. Do you see the Bengals? You think they're going to wait till at the end of camp? Because always at the end of camp, somebody gets cut that they didn't expect, or something. Do you think the Bengals are waiting for that to try to kind of fix the depth issues with the offensive line, or you think they're good where they're at? I mean, where do you think they're at with the depth of the offensive line?
Well, they could always be better. They could have been better for the past 4 years. I think the Adeniji injury hurts, and Fred Johnson being out right now doesn't help. I think they're probably one injury, maybe 1 or 2 away from addressing it like they did with defensive line last year. Like they could not wait. They could not wait to address that last year. Like they had to sign some bodies there, and they did it with Daniels and a couple other guys that during camp. So there has been past points of urgency if a position group is dismantled with injuries. I think right now, like I think they signed Gunnar Vogel for the sole purpose of being a reserve tackle for the loss of Adeniji, and they got back Isaiah Prince, who apparently is doing pretty well at second team left tackle. So I think if like a guy like, I don't know, like if Billy Price goes down, or if like Xavier Suafilo goes down with an extended injury, I think then like a player of that caliber, I think then you would start to see them look towards, who's available and who they can make a waiver claim towards. If not, like I think best case scenario, Fred Johnson comes back next week. He has a healthy preseason, and then they're just good to go for the regular season. And I think this group of guys they have right now, I think they can find 9 or 10 guys on the roster that they would not mind having on the roster. And I don't think there's going to be an urgency to look out for the waiver wire, because unfortunately players do get cut, and there are players that become available at the end of training camp, but there's just such a premium for offensive linemen that you just rarely see other roster caliber offensive linemen available for another team to pick up, unless it's like a really unique type of situation. So unfortunately, everyone needs offensive linemen, no matter how good your offensive line is. And that's just the unfortunate reality with it.
So I don't know anything about this guy, to be honest, but John Wood just said Drake Jackson just got waived by Detroit. What's your, do you know anything about him or anything like that?
The name sounds familiar, but I don't know enough.
Yeah,
he played for Kentucky. That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
No wonder I don't know who he played for, or who he is then. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if that's somebody they could pick up or not. I'm not familiar with him at all, to be honest. But I know some people talk about Billy Price or whatever on here, and I've seen him down there, and unfortunately, I've seen him getting blown up. He has not looked good at all, to be honest. For me, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't make the team this year, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's either way. He's not gonna be our team next year. But if you let Price go, then who are you gonna replace him with? That's kind of where I'm at. They got to have some other people to replace him with. Anyway, it is almost 6:30. John, you have given me almost an hour. I appreciate it. Tell everybody where they can follow you. Tell everybody about the charities that the Orange and Black Insider podcast is trying to support. What you guys got going on before you leave?
Absolutely. So again, you can find all of my work and everything on CincyJungle.com. We do the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast every Wednesday at 8:30, including the water cooler chat that Jeff was on a couple weeks ago. That's usually on a Monday and Tuesday. And you can go to GoFundMe.com/2021 OBI Bengals Podcast Charity Fest. Again, we're up to $1,200 in donation. We want to get as many as we can for the rest of the week. And again, 100% of those proceeds are going to the Ken Anderson Alliance, going to the Anthony Munoz Foundation, going to the Ken Riley Foundation in honor of the inaugural Ring of Honor class. Every penny counts. 100% is going to it. It's not going to me or Anthony. Promise you that your money will be well spent in that regard. So definitely donate if you haven't already, or just spread the word to someone who wants to donate.
You're also giving away stuff too, aren't you? From that too, or
right.
Is that already?
So we have, I think, about 30 donors, and I think every single one of them is going to get a prize. We have sunglasses, we have shirts from the Ken Anderson Alliance, we have Cincy Jungle shirts, Orange and Black Insider merch, koozies, cup holders, stuff like that. So, just small tokens of gratitude from our part to kind of help accelerate this thing and get it to where it is.
So everybody always wants cool stuff, so I figured, give a shout out there. But anyway, John, I love you guys' show. You and Anthony do an outstanding job, and I enjoy your articles when you do write them on Cincy Jungle. And other than that, I appreciate you coming on, and you have a great day. Who day? Alrighty. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I always like talking to John. John's a really good guy to follow on Twitter, and like I said, read his articles on Cincy Jungle. Check him out every Wednesday at 8:30 on the Orange Black Insider podcast. I think I'll get to the Facebook groups that let me live stream. I know the Reds have already started, so I don't even know if they're winning or not. Hopefully they are. Well, I don't know. It might be raining. Who knows? But let's get on out of here. Just like to thank the Facebook groups that let me live stream. And they are Houday Nation, Bengals Nation, Bengals Houday Nation, Cincinnati Bengals of Jungle, Cincinnati Reds riding third, heading for home, Bearcat Country, the Ohio State Bucknuts, the Ice Bar. And then if you want to find me or follow me on all my social media platforms, they're all under Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, also on TikTok. Twitter handle is at Jeff A. Trennepohl. That's TRENNEPOHL. TikTok is at Iceman90. All this is under Sports with Strawberry Ice. So just type that in. You should be able to find it. I put it on my TikTok. I put a lot of the videos that I took from the Bengals bridge last week. Put them all up there. I took some videos from what was the practice on Sunday when I was down there. Put that up there so you can check out my TikTok on there. It's just kind of cool stuff. And then they got the video that was on my channel. You can check that out too from Sunday's game. So that brings you to the podcast. So if you guys don't always want to sit and watch me for an hour, you can listen to me. It's on the podcast. I'll be pulling the sound off later on tonight. And you can check it out on BeanPod, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, pretty much wherever you get your podcast. I'm there. So like I said, if you don't want to watch me, you can listen to me and John for an hour on the podcast. It is blowing up. The podcast is doing awesome. The YouTube channel is doing awesome. The YouTube channel, I'm up to 1,296 subscribers. My podcast, I'm getting lots and lots of downloads. I appreciate that. You guys supporting the show, supporting what I do. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell about Sports with Strawberry Ice. And I got a pretty cool week planned this week. I have guests every day this week. So it won't just be me talking to myself. I'll be talking to multiple people. So it should be a good week. Tomorrow is Mike Sands, Bengal Sands on Twitter. He's going to be on tomorrow. He's a great guy to follow on Twitter. He also has recently been hired on at Cincy Jungle. So he got some articles and stuff there. So go check him out and listen to us tomorrow. And other than that, I got to get to my outro. You see, the StreamYard changed stuff on me, so I can't get to it as fast as I used to. There, that's better. Other than that, as my co-host, whenever the hell he's going to be back on the show, Jeremy D's Nuts, Dimebag Dean. And yes, Jeremy, I'm calling you Jeremy D's Nuts, Dimebag Dean until you come back on the show. Would always say, remember one thing and one thing only, and that is you don't live in Cleveland, you live in Cincinnati, so act like it. Hooday, let's go Reds. Hope they're going to kick Cleveland's ass. That'd be awesome. And that's just sports, baby. See ya! You're about to enter the world of Strawberry Ice and the Ice Cave. Let's go!
You know, the league rule was you're not really supposed
Probably
to
take him out of that conversation. And that
He started from absolute scratch.
I would draft Aziz Ojulari or any
Nobody's doing 7-step drops in
playing tackle for him. So
Right.
it's
He's almost 22 years old. Devonta Smith, same thing. You just can't. You can't do that. You can't do that.
thought that 2010
That should be in the Hall of Fame, and they put him in after he is gone. So that's why.
to fill the stadium.
I remember you guys saying that.
It's crazy.
I see that he's taken the non.
But overall, that line wasn't better.
No,
They still,
He's talking to the refs and saying, hey, I'm not going to get those calls.
he's coming. He's coming, and he's being section 158 with me. So
these guys have learned basically since they've been in the major leagues.